Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special simulcast, the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto without my co-host Greg Hanna today. And I'm with actor, choreographer, and much, much more, Christopher Windom. Christopher, thanks for stopping by. We're going to have a great conversation as we're definitely going to be talking about The Wizard of Oz and what you're doing now, but also talk about you choreographing Respect film. How did it all start out? Acting, choreography? How did it start in your career?
Oh my gosh, I was a little kid who had a lot of energy and a father who was clever enough to figure out how to focus it, and a mother who was supportive enough to follow through on things like gymnastic and music lessons and dance lessons. And dance was the thing that sort of captured my heart, gave me focus, gave me purpose day to day as a kid growing up in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow. Was it challenging to be a dancer in St. Louis, Missouri?
Oh,
Yeah, I got it.
of course. I mean, to be a young guy, people have opinions about that. I have a beloved uncle who would reference my dancing pursuit as boxing. He would say, "How's boxing going?" So there's definitely a stigma around it. But luckily for myself, I could push through that and see the benefits of what it was giving my life: discipline, uh, 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 culture. And let me tell you, validation. It's really nice when a guy walks into a little studio and everyone's like, come in, come in, come in. Yeah, it gave me a sense of belonging.
Interesting. And I think that ultimately it had a different stigma when you started compared to now with how dancing's really popular.
Oh,
Unbelievably.
it's so true. I mean, there was the time when you'd see So You Think You Can Dance on television, and then social media popped up, and oh my gosh, every other person on my feed has some kind of dance or choreography that they're doing. So it's very popular, and I'm all for it. I think it should be as accessible as possible.
Okay. So you started out as a dancer. How did you get to Broadway? That's a huge accomplishment. People don't understand. People that have worked on Broadway, that's not, it's the cream of the crop that only get to Broadway.
It's so true. The saying, if New York, New York, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. It's some truth to that. And also, there's a lesser known saying, there's a broken heart for every light on Broadway. So that tells you that it is a dream, but it is also not a guarantee that it will be a success for everyone. For myself, I'm glad it worked out that way. I studied all I could when I was in St. Louis, went to college, studied musical theater, had a passion for singing and dancing and acting. And when I moved to New York, had a really fast stroke of success. Actually, auditions that led to callbacks that led to job offers like within the first couple of weeks. So that doesn't happen, and I've been looking for that kind of luck ever since. But the one thing I would say that helped was I realized after graduating college, my life and career had been scheduled, what I was going to do, even though I may get to choose classes. I had structure in my life. And moving to New York, I realized I needed that kind of structure. So I found dance classes and acting classes and voice lessons. And I created my own curriculum that helped to keep my skills sharp. And that gave me a lot of confidence when I walked into auditions, knowing that I could perform at my best. Yeah.
Tell me how challenging it is for a Broadway casting call when you're going. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's every nightmare you could ever possible. I mean, I remember walking into the my first audition going like, how am I going to know the choreography? Well, they teach you the choreography, and you have to learn. Well, eventually you learned that the people on the other side of the table, the choreographer, the director, the producer, they want you to be good. They're not looking for you to fail or fall flat on your face. They're really looking to make their job easier. And so they're just wishing for you to be as good as possible. So they'll do everything they can to help you shine and help you be a success.
And that shining in success. Wow. And who did how did you get cast in Broadway? What Broadway show?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. My first big show was a national tour of Damn Yankees starring Jerry Lewis, which was a huge triumph for me because I saw that show on Broadway, with classmates of mine. And I remember standing up at the bows and clapping and turning to my classmate and saying, I'm going to do that show. No rhyme or reason why I would think I would do that show. And that was one of my first auditions. And walking in, I just knew I had all that it took to be in that show, all the talent. And I'm glad that it worked out for me to be a part of that touring company. Meanwhile, I'd auditioned for another show called Fosse, based on the life's work choreography of legendary Broadway and film choreographer Bob Fosse. And to be a young guy in the room with all of these incredible dancers and legends of theater that would come to work with us, B.B. Newirth, Anne Reinking, Chita Rivera, Gwen Verdon. I mean, come on. These are the heavy hitters. And to be in the room with them, my God, I was wide-eyed and just eager to learn all I could. So, but yeah, those are some stripes those are some shows that I earned some dancing
Yeah,
stripes on,
I'm
for
doing my
sure.
own research right now as I'm looking, and I didn't ask AI to do it. I'm still old school, not in that way. I love AI, but I just was doing some quick searches and I said, Broadway, okay. That's something that people understand. That's something in your resume that really sets you apart when you're going to go choreography. And then we're going to talk about that kind of transition. But I see Fosse. I also see A Wonderful Life. You were involved in that one in 2005. So you went from 2001 Fosse to 2005 with that and on 20th Century. So there's two more. So you're not giving yourself enough credit. And then you look at touring, you have Damn Yankees, and you also have Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is an unbelievable production. Oh my goodness. Of talking about one that blows you away, right?
Well, that's a crowd pleaser, and I like to ask people, "Have you ever been on stage yourself?" And that's one of the shows people will say, "Oh, I did that in high school or middle school." Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. That one's fun because my role on that one was actually associate director. All the while I was dancing, people would tap me on the shoulder and say, would you mind choreographing this little number I'm doing or choreographing this little show that I'm doing? And I always saw
So
myself as a performer, but because people were curious about that side of me, I applied myself and I just gave it a go. I don't know what gave me permission to
yeah,
think that I could lead a room full of people, but as you can probably tell, I'm kind of a nice guy and I'm a
you're right.
great cheerleader for other artists. So that kind of style of leadership goes a long way in a creative process.
But they saw your talent. So that was early in your talent before what you've accomplished as a choreographer. So you like that experience, but you went back to performer for a certain amount of time. What made you want to do choreography more and getting the opportunity that we talked about, getting to be a choreographer in the MGM film Respect?
Oh, that's a great question. I Friends of mine would say, when I would take on a choreographer's role, they would say, "Oh, you want to be the boss. You just want to be in charge." And I don't think of it that way. I think of it as a responsibility. I love taking responsibility for the story on as a whole, as opposed to just one small part that I might play as a performer. And I love giving space for other artists to apply their skills, to use their talents, and I love getting great performances out of people. So I really
Wow.
appreciate the broad scope that being a choreographer offers me. Yeah.
So that experience on Respect, is that going to make you want to do more choreography in film? Are you
Oh my
done
gosh,
with
I
that?
would love to. Oh gosh, no. That was
Uh-huh.
an amazing process. I mean, a completely different medium than live theater. Uh, but the reach of a story that's on film is more far-reaching, and actually, it's quite, it's immortal. That choreography, that movie will exist forever. So, absolutely, yeah.
Well, you went to your experiences, all of them are top notch. That's what I've noticed just looking at your bio, because we're gonna get right now to the Wizard of Oz. It's a Tony Award winning theater. So that's gotta be production. That's gotta be amazing that you were a part of this. Talk about how this happened, getting involved in that.
Well, the artistic director, Rick Dilding, he is also the director of The Wizard of Oz, and he happens to be a pal of mine. And he thought of me, which I don't take lightly. There are hundreds of choreographers out there, and for him to think of me and know that this would be a match for me was just very generous. So it was also early conversations where we were figuring out, it's such a classic piece, so well known because of the movie. How are we going to tell this story for this theater and for this audience? And when we landed on this idea of taking something that's familiar but making it fresh, I said, "Yeah, I'm in. I'm in." So it led to conversations of how do we interpret the Yellow Brick Road? How do we interpret costume? One of the early conversations led to, do we want to see Dorothy in a gingham dress, like Judy Garland in the movie? Or do we want to base it on a little more grounded reality? So our Dorothy is in coveralls, just like a little farm girl. So it just, those kinds of changes of details really.
So, and what did you see from your and being a choreographer? Explain how that's done. Is this choreography role, or are you doing more in this production?
This role, I was choreographer, but as you can tell, Neil,
So,
I
but tell me a
probably
choreographer. Define a choreographer for someone that might not know.
so a choreographer who would take music and create movement or dance and teach that to an ensemble, and at the best, it would be movement or dance that tells a story.
But you have to have a visual part to this, right? Choreographers pick the outfits, right? They pick the. So explain that the more nuances than just the music and dance part of it.
That's great. It's very collaborative. So on this production and most musical productions, there's a director, there's a choreographer, there's a scenic designer who's responsible for all of the set pieces. There's a costume designer who's responsible for all of the clothes that the actors wear, and a lighting designer and a sound designer. So dance being a visual art, I'm not necessarily the one who's going to say this is what they should wear, but through conversation, through the direct with the director and the costume designer and the set designer, we're coming to some group ideas of what we think would be best to tell the story.
And looking at telling the story, making some of those changes, is that from Oz and Wizard of Oz combined in so many ways? If you look at the history of Oz or in Wizard of Oz,
Oh, yeah. I mean, I took time to read the book and, of course, watch the movie and other iterations of it. And listen, we are in a post Wicked world, so people
mm,
have opinions about both witches, the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda. They're looking at them with different eyes just based on, this current phenomena.
yeah, you can't believe what Wicked's done, right?
I can only, I believe me, I know. Defying gravity is an earworm right now.
So, how is it working with the student cast? Are you enjoying that?
I love it. They are just so bright and so talented. And listen, it's a little niche of a project called theater, and you're not going to show up if you don't want to do it. So they are hungry to be there. And what's beautiful is we have a cast of students, but we also have adult professional actors. And that sort of relationship is really interesting to nurture because theater is a journeyman's experience. You can go to school, you can go to class, but a lot of it you learn by doing. And to be in a situation where older adults are able to model professional behavior and model talent, and the youngsters are looking up to them and absorbing everything, they watch everything. Having
I
been a
totally.
youngster myself, I appreciate that kind of access to those pros.
What are you seeing in kids that are getting the discipline of theater? Are you seeing a different kid than what we're seeing today? What we think about kids, the young generation.
Gotcha. I mean, kids are kids. They're dealing with the same sort of emotional struggles and wanting to fit in and discovering their bodies every week. It's that will never change. But what has changed is the landscape of how theater is presented. There's a lot more. There's YouTube, so kids can have access to performances that I myself would have to wait till I saw it on VHS tape. So that is a plus because you see more diverse performance styles,
Mm.
but also it can have its holdbacks because it makes it look so easy. So perhaps a youngster may not understand the discipline that it takes to study your craft and learn your craft. They may think that putting themselves on video and on YouTube is all that it takes. But when they're in the rehearsal room, boy, you can see where their talents lie very easily. And in the audition process, you can tell the kids who have studied and who have trained and who really have a hunger and
Interesting.
interest. You know.
But I also think that when you're seeing them involved in some sort of activity, that made you disciplined. Being dancing all the time, having to balance schoolwork with dance. It's you see that same type of thing with an athlete too, that there's just a different element to them, right? They have that drive and sacrifice that's needed.
So true. I mean, you have to balance your homework and, as a grown-up artist, you also have to balance, your creative life and also your home life as well. So that never goes away. But what helps is to have parents, if possible, who can be supportive of your interests. For me, it started with Boy Scouts, with Little League, with soccer and violin, and dance was the thing that stuck.
Uh,
So I think my
you're a
parents.
disciplined person and all those different things. I so that I don't even know your lesson schedule and all that. But what about for how long do you guys do after they get cast? How long are the practices for? Like when you're going and practice doing every day, like how many hours a day?
Gotcha. So for this process, it was a 4-week rehearsal process, and
Hmm.
then a week of tech where we moved into the theater from the rehearsal room to put all of the set and costume and lighting and sound elements in, and then 2 previews, and then we opened. It sounds very fast, and it is very fast, especially when you're rehearsing 5 days a week.
Right.
Um, and with the students, you only have 4 hours of rehearsal, so you really need to come in prepared. And they were so quick. I mean, I'm just so impressed. The real test is after you teach them something and then they come back the next day, how much they remember. And every time they came back, we could just pick up where we left off yesterday and continue building. And that was just supreme. Yeah.
So what's next for you, Christopher? Do you have other things coming on the pipeline?
Yes, but no contracts signed yet, so I can't tell you exactly what they are in specifics. But one is a musical that I'm choreographing, another is a musical that I'm choreographing, and I do have plenty to look forward to. I'm sorry to be
That's okay.
so
Are you
discreet.
looking to go back in film after that MGM experience?
Oh yeah, I would love that. Sometimes it's making sure that I'm letting people know that I'm interested in it and making connections and having conversations with people who work in that medium.
Do you also train other actors work with dancers throughout the time? Is that something you do too?
Gotcha. Yeah, I have an assistant whom I work with very closely and regularly, and she's right now choreographing her own musical out in Utah, a production of She Loves Me, Lee Scheffler. So that sort of is a kind of training, this kind of mentorship, and getting her
Mentoring
access to.
the next Christopher.
Yeah,
Got it. I
yeah.
got it. And looking at all those things. Do you see yourself ever going back to Broadway?
Oh, yeah. I think that may be one of the.
Things you're telling me about, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to come back on the show and tell me, oh, by the way, I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
there's something big in the works you can't say because that
Yeah.
you signed
That
those NDAs,
that
right?
NDA is strong, man. Yeah.
All right, my last questions for my co-host asked all our celebrity guests this, and this is really one that you have to really think about, but it's a really powerful one that we learn from every time we've asked a celebrity this question. What is the most important thing in life you've ever learned?
Oh, I think the most important thing I've learned in life was the power of presence, of being where you are, particularly as an artist. There's no guarantees of how things will unfold, and I would say I had frequent flyer miles on future trips, always trying to think about what's going to happen in the future. But I find my most like peace and my most like successful endeavors are when I'm just really present with where I am time to time and with whomever I'm speaking with, like you, Neil. Just the power of presence it can be so healing and so fortifying.
Well, you taught me something. See, this is one thing. I started this as an education show 15 plus years ago. Now I'm one of the top celebrity podcasters in the world and constantly do interviews, but I did not know about this. Now I know more about choreography because you watch the awards ceremony, you wonder what is choreography? And I think dance has just gotten so popular. And I think that we got to continue that art. Anything that still can be done by humans. I told you I'm a very pro AI person, but I also want to really push people into those areas that will never be taken over by robots or AI and really look at those because not everyone can dance. I sure as heck can't dance. And you have to put yourself out there and say, hey, I found my gift. I need to go after it. And that's why I do this show because I want to learn from new people, but I also want to share this experience to say, did you learn something? Now are you going to go and consider dance as a profession? And then there's opportunities, isn't there? It's a big pool of people, but a lot of people don't. It's a quick weed out process, right? For not putting the work in.
It is, but also there is dance available for every level, from the professional to the amateur. There are dance social clubs where you don't even have to know very much about dance at all, but it's really a chance to be in communion with other people who enjoy moving their bodies and listening to music and having fun.
So, Christopher, I'm 6'10", 290 pounds, former professional wrestler. And
Wow.
I always I'm practicing doing a lot of yoga now because I use DDPY. Donald Dials Page has his own yoga. It's more of a strength training yoga, but I'm
Yeah.
working on my flexibility's gotten better than I wasn't even as a wrestler. But I'm always intrigued about how can I learn to dance, you know? And what do you think the first step is for somebody that really can't dance? Especially when I go out with my fiance and we're like at 80s rocking. I'm going on the stage and I'm like, I am terrible. I'm absolutely horrible. What are your recommendations?
Do you know your left foot from your right foot?
Yes.
You're on your way. And I take it you can walk down the street with ease,
Yes.
and you could walk backwards if you had to.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You are on your way. You know how to jump.
Yes.
You
I
know how
can
to
jump
bend.
high. Huh? Yeah, I know how to bend. I told you with the yoga I'm
You
doing.
you know how to turn around.
Yeah.
You know how to leap through the air, I imagine.
Yes.
These are all the basics of dancing. And with a personality like yours, you put that behind all of these like codified little moves. Come on, man. If I were with you, we'd be dancing right now.
So you're saying it's more of a choreography versus the movement's important to move your body, but it's more the choreography of making a dance look good.
It's more of whom you're giving the choreography to and whom you're building the choreography on. That thing about presence is quite significant for me because I'm also not the kind of choreographer who, unless, the schedule is as such that I need to come in with a set number that I'm going to teach, I'm actually often creating a number on the spot with the people whom are standing right before me. Like a painter needs to like know what his art or his paint is like and how he's going to vibe with that paint. I need to know how I'm going to vibe with the people that I'm going to be creating dances on. So that kind of presence of mind and being able to make fast decisions for a group of people in the moment is kind of a skill that I created for myself. So it's a very organic process that I do. I would look at your 6'10" self and your right foot and your left foot and just your wonderful demeanor and sense of humor and try to create movement that expresses, how do I say, grace and power, grace of emotion and power of the size of you as a human being. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited. One point to meet. All right. So, best place people can connect with you is there a place, Christopher, you're on social media people can find, and then also first, where can they purchase tickets for people out there that are in the area? Where's best
Great.
place?
If you want to purchase tickets, go to Children's Theater Company. This is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You can find their website just by searching for Children's Theater Company, The Wizard of Oz. And if you want to find me, my socials are all the same. C Windom 5, CWINDOM, and the number 5 at just about every social media platform.
All right. Thanks, Christopher. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Neil, I appreciate you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the celebrity interviews live from the Grotto, Canada. Guys, take